I've been getting asked a lot of questions about how do I get rid of shin splints, and there's no real answer. Shin splints are an impact injury, and when you have impacts, you just have things that come with it. But there are ways you can help with rehab, you can help with shoes, you can get insoles, all those things, but a lot of it comes down to simply your mechanics. If your mechanics are off, it could be increasing your level of shin splint issues. So we're going to talk about one simple thing. Is it better to run on your toes or not? Here are my shoes. I haven't worn them yet. I'm going to wear them pretty soon. I'll probably wear them at our first track meet, or maybe sooner. Anyway, Pegasus 34. Now, on the shoe, coaches always explain, I want you to run on your toes. But you don't really run on your toes. You run on a different part of your foot. Where you really want to run is like right here, right behind the ball of your foot. Not your arch, obviously, but right in front of it. Not the toes, more towards the middle part, right behind the ball of the foot. So this line right here kind of indicates where that is. Let's go to the drawing board. All right, so this is what I do with all my athletes. First things first is, let's just say I'm a Martian, right? And I landed here on Mars. I have 2 feet, 2 hands, okay? And this is the Martian. And I come to this Earth and I say, please teach me how to move my physical body from right here, this would be position A, to right here, position B. I want to move this body this way. I tell them, please explain to me, step by step, how do I move my physical body, right now he's frustrated, right? My physical body to this new location. So if you know, take the time out right now, pause the video, and try to figure out how to do it step by step. Now, let's just assume you took 2 minutes or 10 minutes. Everyone is a different range. But the first step is, 1, I need to lift my leg up, right? Let's just put lift, right? 2 is I'm going to lean forward. 3, and the most important part of it, is I want to push. I want to push the ground away with the foot that is on the ground. The most important variable that is needed is the ground. If you do not have the ground, you have nothing to push off of. And when you don't have anything to push off of, your body will no longer or will not move any direction. So it's very important to push the ground in one direction, and your physical body will move in the opposite. So when it comes to running, if I want to run in a forward direction, my physical body wants to go in that direction, I must push backwards into the ground. Here's my body, here's my ground. 99% of the time, the ground is not going to move anywhere. Hopefully, right? But our body will move 100% of the time. So the focus is, the harder we press the ground away, the faster our body will move in the opposite direction. So if I'm sitting down in a chair, and my ultimate goal is to move my body upwards, I must push the ground downwards. Does that make sense? If I want to get up faster, I push the ground down harder. If I want to jump and leave the ground, I must push the ground at a higher amount of force. There is no other variable. It's simply push the ground in one direction. That is your action. The reaction is your body leaving and going somewhere else. So now, how this ties into shoes and your feet and so on, right? Is if when your foot is flat on the ground, you are stable. You're stable. You're in this very stable situation. When you are pushing, your push muscles are your quads. Okay, let's just say this is your leg. All right, and your kneecap and your leg, your calf. Your quads, all right, this part of your body. This helps with pushing your butt, helps with pushing downwards, and then your calves also add in some push. When your feet are on the ground, the more stable you are, the better. So the focus is You want to create the most amount of force, and you create more force when you are in a stable environment. If you are on your toes, this is your foot again, and here's the ground, here's your foot, all right? You have now a variable of having to stabilize. So your calf muscles and whatever other muscles are available are going to have to stabilize this. Just imagining doing heavy squats on your toes. You're not as stable, and the muscles that are used are different. They're going to have a variation of muscle versus being very specific. Now, from this point, the focus is when I'm running. Ideally, my most stable position is a flat foot. So when I teach athletes from the very beginning is I want you to land flat-footed when you do all your drills. The focus is because you're more stable and you're creating more force within your movements. Now, once you start to want to move forward, you can't move forward if you're in this position of up and down. So you have to slightly change the angle of your push into the ground. So for example, if I push downwards, my body wants to go upwards. But if I want to go forwards, I need to push away to move me in that forward direction. I hope you're following me so far. So now when I'm running, I can't just be in this flat, stable position. I need to somehow adjust the angle that I am sitting at. So let's go over here. I'm going to first change my angle so I can push the ground in that backwards direction. So this is the ground, here's my foot. So now when I push down and away, I'm going to be running in that opposite direction. So if you notice that if my foot changes its angle, it's still at a 90-degree angle, but in relationship to the ground, it's at a different angle. So this distance will be the difference in that angle. But as you can see, my toe happens to catch the ground before my whole foot does. So what I'm trying to get at is, you run flat-footed. But when you're accelerating, your foot that is flat happens to touch the ground first. Now from this point, you have 3 different levers. This is your hip. Hope you can see that. This is your knee. And this is your ankle. Your ankle produces a lot of force. It's your follow through. If this were basketball and you're shooting, this should be your shoulder, that'd be your elbow, and this should be your wrist. Your wrist or your ankle is your finish and follow through within your motions. The power starts at this position. Then it works its way down to all the muscles around this part of your body, and then it finishes here. If your ankle is already straight, then you don't have this power to use. You're only using these 2 variables. So the focus is you want to make sure you're landing in a very specific part of your foot. So when you're running, if you can remain for now as beginners more flat-footed in your run, the better. Now you don't want to go too flat to where you're landing like this on the ground because now you're braking. A lot of distance runners land like this. Again, this is their foot. So you want to just be flat-footed. And as you start to accelerate, the faster you run, the more of the angle you have to create the force into the ground, and you're going to have a sharper angle so your foot and your toes actually make contact on the ground. Here's a video that can break it down as well. So all we're looking at now is you can see that as he makes contact with the ground, you're now more aware of how much of his foot is actually on the ground. That allows him to propel him forward to get his run done. If you have any further questions, shoot me an email at info@KeinanBriggs.com.